You've probably spent many hours tweaking your text, but almost no time tweaking the space that you write in. But what if the real reason you feel stuck, distracted, or exhausted when writing isn't due to the writing itself, but rather to your environment? In this video, I'll share some simple tweaks you can make to your work location, your workspace, and your tech hardware so that writing feels calmer, faster, and more focused. And if we haven't met, hello, my name is Crystal Heron. I'm a trained biomedical scientist turned clinical researcher and now scientific and medical editor. And since 2011, I've helped scientists, clinicians, and other professional writers communicate clearly and persuasively without losing nuance or credibility. So let's get to how you can optimize your work location, workspace, and hardware to support your writing. When it comes to your work location, you want to set yourself up to do your best work. Now, I need a quiet space for writing and deep work, so I prefer a dedicated office. But frankly, I live in a small space and I don't have a dedicated room, so I have a quiet corner in my living room that I use as my office space. You could also work at a library to get a quiet space to work in, and sometimes you can also take advantage of business services that they might have, like printing. And I also think there is nothing like the smell of books in a library. I just love that smell. Now, if you prefer background noise, you might like to work at a coffee shop or a bakery or a deli. Or you could even join a co-working space, which has a ton of other benefits like business services or networking opportunities. And you can often choose between you working at an open desk or an office space or a conference room, depending on your needs and budget. And you might even enjoy working at a park if you don't need a power source or need Wi-Fi, unless, of course, you tether to your cell phone or another device. Another option is to split your time between locations to add variety to your work location. For example, you might do deep focused work on writing in your home office and then create figures or cite references at a coffee shop. I have a friend who moves around her house throughout the day to work in different parts of the house, and that works really well for her, but that wouldn't work well for me. So keep in mind that you need to adjust your environment in a way that works best for you. And there are many different locations that you could explore for working, and the key is to find the best location to support your needs for the particular task that you're working on. When it comes to your physical space, you want to set yourself up to be able to focus. So here are some things that I've found helpful. I have a dedicated space to work, and it's great if you have an office at your company or an office in your home. As I mentioned, I'm set up in a corner of my living room with my desk tucked behind a big piece of furniture that creates a cozy office feel. I've also used a room divider to create a wall that helps me separate my work from home so that I'm not tempted to work all the time. I also recommend placing your desk somewhere with a lot of natural light. I'm right next to a window, and so I get a lot of natural light. But the window isn't behind me, so I don't get a lot of glare on my screen, and I don't need to worry about keeping blinds or curtains closed behind me to avoid any glare on my screen. And if you don't have a lot of natural light, you can get a portable blue light that I've read can help give you some of the benefits of natural light. So that is something that you can explore. I also recommend clearing or organizing your desk to avoid distractions. So to me, a clear desk is a clear mind. So I keep my desk clutter-free. And you might not think about this very much, but color is another important thing to consider. So according to color theory, different colors affect how we feel. For example, blue is often associated with calmness, cleanliness, and trust, which is why you'll find it in many hospitals. And for example, red is often associated with strength and confidence. Now, I'll admit that I tend to feel a little more anxiety than most people, so I typically use neutral colors and natural wood to give me a sense of calmness while I work. and I have plants around for color and freshness. So I recommend choosing colors that support what you need when you write. If you need a sense of calmness, you might prefer blue or earth tones, or if you prefer energy and confidence, you might prefer a color like red. So these are just a few things to consider in optimizing your workspace. I would love to know how you optimize your workspace, and I hope that you will share them in the comments in case someone else might find it helpful. So when it comes to tech gear, you want to keep things around that make your writing easier. So the first thing that I want to recommend is investing in quality hardware and a great ergonomic office setup. And you may pay more for these things at the outset, but you will save money over time by not replacing cheap stuff more often. And I am not a big spender, so that says a lot coming from me. And you can start with one thing and then build up over time. For example, when I first started, I got a quality laptop and a nice desk. And then I got a good chair, and then I got a nicer monitor, and then I got nicer other things. And so you can slowly upgrade over time. Now, a question that I get asked a lot is, do I purchase a laptop or do I purchase a desktop computer? So a laptop can give you a lot of flexibility, but a desktop can give you more computing power if you need it. Personally, I use a laptop for flexibility when I travel, but I plug it into a monitor in my home office to get the full desktop experience. And this way, I can also use a regular keyboard and a regular mouse, which I find is easier, especially for things like presentations and figures, and it's also more ergonomic. Now, monitors are something else important to consider. I use one large monitor so that I can display two documents side by side. I know that some people like 2 or even 3 monitors. Personally, I find that I get cricks in my neck from not looking straight ahead. Also, when I work with more than one monitor, I'm tempted to keep my email open on one screen all the time, which is distracting. So one monitor works best for me, and I toggle between different desktops on my laptop setup. Now, I do occasionally use my laptop as a second monitor, especially during things like virtual events, so I do have that as an option if I need it. Now, I also have an adjustable standing desk, so I can alternate between sitting and standing, and this way I'm not sitting all day. And frankly, when I stand, I feel more confident, which is great for virtual presentations. And sometimes I even find that I work faster, so I will use the standing setup when I'm replying to emails. But I also have a great ergonomic chair for when I'm sitting and when I want to have more of a sitting down, talking to a friend feel, like in these videos. I also know that some people even have a walking treadmill. Personally, I think I might have a hard time walking and working at the same time, but I might be able to walk during meetings. But honestly, I usually encourage people to have walking meetings outside when the weather is nice so that you can get some sun and some fresh air. Now, when it comes to other pieces of hardware, I do have a printer. I like to use paper checklists and I like to proof things on paper, so I do occasionally print. However, if you don't print often, you can always print things at a local office supply store or co-working space or library, so it's not necessary if you do most things digitally. Also, I cannot stress this enough, but have a system to back up your files, ideally in more than one place. Now, before I tell you about my setup, I want to share what I experienced, and I am embarrassed to share, but I think it will stress the importance of this. So when I was in my final year or so of grad school, I made the mistake of not backing up my files for a long time. I kept saying, I'll do it tomorrow for years. Well, my computer died. Years of data analysis, writing, etc., gone. The institution couldn't recover my files. And I did have raw data stored on other computers, but it meant I would need to do all of my analysis again. I was devastated. It was a huge, monumental mistake not to back up my files. Now, thankfully, my partner at the time was a computer whiz and came to my rescue. But because the files were confidential, he had to take all of his stuff to the IT office at the organization and do it under their supervision. But he got the files off, and I will forever be indebted to him. So please learn from me, back up your files. So here's how I do it. All of my files are automatically backed up in the cloud, and they are also backed up on a mini server with multiple drives that back up each other. And all of this is automatic, so I don't have to think about it at all. And I also back up some things on an external drive that's connected to my computer. For example, sometimes videos can have problems if you save them to a server via Wi-Fi, so I save them directly to an external drive. And some people might think this is overkill, but losing files is devastating. Please don't make the same mistake as me. I was lucky, but I almost wasn't. Now, the last thing I'll mention about tech tools is to think about the smaller things as well. So I have an ergonomic keyboard and an ergonomic mouse that I love and fit my hands and my frame, and these make my writing experience much better. And I'm not posting links to all the things that I'm talking about because you need to find what works well for your body and how you like to work. For example, some people prefer trackpads or gaming mice, and I prefer my very ugly but very comfortable handshoe mouse. So these are just a few tech tools to consider in optimizing your writing environment. And I recommend finding tools that work well for you and best support your writing. And I'd love to know what tools you love. And I hope you'll share them in the comments in case someone else might find it helpful. So when you're writing, remember that your work environment is just as important as the writing that you craft. Pay attention to your work location, your physical space, and your tech tools. And if something isn't working for you, change it. Even something as small as the color of the notebook on your desk can affect how you feel. And if something is working well for you, please share it in the comments so we can learn from you and experiment with new ways to optimize our writing environment. And if you're interested in software tools to make your writing faster and easier, you might consider using a text expansion tool. I'll add a link to a video about my favorite text expansion tool, not sponsored, and how I use it at the end of this video. And if there's something in particular that you'd like to learn more about, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in the next video.